Russian drones over Poland, fighter jets in Estonian airspace, and a flyover above a Polish oil platform. All this happened in just days. Coincidence? No. These are warnings. Something has started. We need to understand this because if you're asking if the battle for NATO has begun, the answer is yes. But this battle doesn't look like most people imagine. And now, let's go through what happened together. But mainly what Russia wants with this. Welcome to Beyond Borders. We reveal hidden connections, power plays, and conflicts shaping our world. 3 incidents in just a few days. First, Poland. More than 20 Russian drones entered its airspace. Some were shot down, others flew further. The Poles immediately called it a deliberate provocation. NATO had to intervene. A few days later in Estonia, 3 Russian MiG-31 jets flew without a flight plan or transponders. 12 minutes in the airspace of the small Baltic state. The Russians disappeared only after the Italian F-35SO took off. This happened for the 3rd time in the Baltic Sea. 2 Russian fighter jets flew low over the Petro-Baltic platform, right through its security zone. The Polish border guard spoke of harassment, 3 provocations, 3 messages for NATO, and all within a single week. But notice one more thing. Each of these incidents happened in a different way. First, unmanned vehicles, then manned fighter jets. Finally, a symbolic provocation over strategic infrastructure. It's like a gradually increasing dose. First, a test to see if anyone reacts, then a bolder move, and finally, a direct message. We're here. We can come anytime and you can't stop us. That's not chaos, it's a signal. Carefully planned, escalating, aimed at NATO. Now, why is Moscow doing this if it's not an open attack? What's it about? And why isn't it about starting a war? Clarity is important. Russia doesn't want to start a war with NATO right away. It knows NATO lacks strength, economy, and resources. So why these provocations then? The answer is simple. It's a test of nerves, a test of reactions. Moscow is testing how individual countries will react, whether they will protest strongly, or they'll say it was just a coincidence, even as the whole world watches. Moscow officially denies any violations, claiming the planes are flying over neutral waters. But Russian propaganda still takes advantage of these incidents, not by directly admitting it, but rather by portraying NATO as hysterical and frightened. Russia is expected to appear calm and strong, and that's exactly how it is portrayed to its domestic audience. We've already discussed another possible NATO-Russia war scenario on this channel. If you're interested in what such a conflict could look like in reality, you can find it in one of our previous videos here on the Beyond Borders channel. Today, we're seeing a different kind of game. It's not a war with tanks on the borders. A war of nerves with borders shifting gradually, each move testing if the alliance will weaken. But today's incidents show a different face. Not tanks on the borders, not mass invasions. But a series of smaller steps can achieve a similar result. Now we'll reveal the Kremlin's real goal. Moscow's real goal is to break NATO unity. It may seem like coincidence, but it's intentional. To undermine the alliance's unity, see the reactions. Poland instantly called it intentional. American President Donald Trump said it was an accident. Many countries immediately stood by Poland. They promised support and condemned the provocation, but not all did. Some hesitated, and others responded lukewarmly. And this is exactly what the Kremlin wants, for NATO not to speak with one voice, for cracks to appear, to show that collective defense may be written on paper, but in practice, it could look different. Such differences benefit Moscow. Any hesitation or weak statements make the alliance seem divided. And once the seed of doubt is planted, Putin will water it with every further provocation. This is how the alliance's cohesion is tested. Not through one big attack, but by a series of smaller crises that show who has courage and who backs down. Because if different interpretations arise with every incident, the unity of the alliance becomes just an illusion. Illusions can be broken, and that's only the start. Because Russia still has other ways to escalate this pressure. We're not done yet. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. That will help it reach more people. If you'd like to support my work, you can contribute using the thanks button. Thank you. Let's continue. How can escalation continue? Drones and fighter jets are just the start. Sabotage could be next. Explosions of ammunition depots, or power outages caused by cyber attacks. Then come the so-called gray zones, situations where it won't be clear whether it's the military or civilians controlled by intelligence services. It could be unrest in cities, warehouses set on fire, sabotaged railways, or groups of unidentified armed men. And the media are already speculating that Russian provocations could escalate before the end of this year. They claim Moscow plans a gray zone attack on Poland before Christmas. British intelligence says these plans were disclosed by General Major, who fled Russia. He says the Kremlin is planning a non-nuclear strike on Poland. The target, a test of NATO's response and the creation of political chaos in Europe. And what does an attack in the gray zone mean? It's a covert, coercive action that remains below the threshold of war. Its aim is to weaken the target state without provoking a military response. In addition, Estonia's Narva is often mentioned as a possible target, a city where most of the population speaks Russian. That's where little green men could appear, just like in Crimea in 2014. But Narva isn't the only sensitive area. Other locations are just as fragile. The Suwałki corridor between Poland and Lithuania separates Kaliningrad from Belarus. We made a separate video about it, available on our channel. Then there's the Black Sea, where Russian and Allied aircraft meet regularly. Or even the underwater infrastructure, cables, and gas pipelines, which are ideal targets for covert operations. And here comes the dilemma. Is this grounds for collective defense or just a minor incident that can be ignored? That's exactly what Moscow is playing at, waiting for it to start arguing with itself. The more options it has, the harder it is for the alliance to identify the red line. What is still provocation and what is already an attack? The risk continues, as the next step could be direct conflict. The risk of an escalation spiral. Each incident raises the bar higher, and the risk increases. Some in the Baltics say Russian planes should be shot down without warning or excuses. Czech President Petr Pavel also joined this debate. He stated clearly that violating airspace is a reason to activate defensive mechanisms, and therefore to shoot down such an aircraft. Russia will act as we permit. Similar opinions are coming from Germany, other countries, and even the United States of America. But what if a shoot-down really happens? Imagine that. A Russian MiG shot down over Estonia. Putin quickly calls the Security Council as state television claims a NATO attack. And suddenly we're in a situation that no one has under control anymore. But it's not entirely without precedent. You might remember the year 2015. Turkey shot down a Russian Sukhoi 24 near the Syrian border. The world waited to see what would happen. Nothing major happened. No war, just harsh words, sanctions, and a diplomatic crisis. Today, the situation has changed. Before, it concerned Syria and the periphery. Now, it's about NATO member states' territories. Any hesitation could directly affect the whole continent. We also need to realize that the dynamics themselves are much more dangerous today. In 2015, the Kremlin could still back down, but now it is cornered in the Ukraine war. And if Putin wanted to prove that Russia is not afraid of it, he could choose a harsher response than we can imagine. Escalation spirals, with each step triggering another and every action causing a reaction. The fears of nuclear conflict become alarmingly real, making these provocations very dangerous, because even if their goal isn't war, they can end up causing it. And this brings us to the most important question. What is actually at stake in this game? Conclusion. What's at stake? A conflict between Russia and NATO won't look like 24. February 2022. Tanks won't roll across the borders. It will be a series of smaller incidents, provocations, sabotage, and airspace violations. All these steps aim to undermine confidence in Article 5 in the belief that an attack on one is an attack on all. If the alliance can't act as one or hesitates on its own territory, collective defense becomes meaningless. That's exactly what Moscow wants. Russia hasn't started a war with NATO, but it has begun the process. It tries step by step to break up the alliance, which is the greatest risk. For the West, war with Russia is unthinkable, but for Putin, it's a game of nerves. He knows many governments fear risking nuclear conflict over minor incidents and is exploiting this fear. If NATO hesitates, its citizens will too. When people doubt the alliance's protection, It allows Russian influence in individual countries. From the Baltic states to Slovakia through Poland, that's what's at stake. Not just tanks and planes, but trust in Europe's security foundation. And that's exactly the battle that's already taking place today. It's not on the front line, but in politicians' minds and in the courage of nations that must respond. And here I ask you, viewers, what is worse? Visible open conflict or silent internal weakening? NATO is already being undermined by Russia. The battle for NATO has begun. It's up to us to show courage and endure it. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate a like and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next ones I'm working on. You can support my work by showing gratitude. To help the video reach more people, click praise. Thank you.